serving men in matters relating to divorce. Available via phone, video call or in person. Conveniently located in Canary Wharf, Watford and central London. Cordellcordell.co.uk. A partner men can count on.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
It's an interesting thing. Just before we get into Kieran, you'll be the first caller concerning my conversation. This is I just spotted. Have you seen this? COVID was in France in the autumn of 2019. Autumn of 2019, it's 2021 now. Weeks before officials say it was found for the first time in China, so researchers have claimed. Were you in France in autumn 2019? I probably was. A study by the National Institute of Health and Medical Research in Paris suggests thousands of French people had the disease before the World Health Organization knew about the outbreak in Wuhan. Well, don't be surprised about the World Health Organization not knowing what's going on. They still haven't found out what happened in Wuhan after being there for 4 weeks. The study is based on blood samples taken from a representative cohort of the French population, detected cases of COVID-19 as early as the week of November the 4th, 2019. My God. Researchers found an overall rate of contamination about 1 case per 1,000. Gosh, this goes on. This is all out of Le Monde. That would suggest, Le Monde says, 66,000 people had the virus in that period, including 20,000 in France before the first official case. Does that mean it didn't start in China? It started in France. Well, it leads us into our EU conversation, doesn't it? Kieran's in Dublin. Well, Kieran, you're on the radio. Good morning. Great city. I love your city. You're on the radio. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm grand. What are you going to tell me?
I'm just getting a bit kind of annoyed here with you constantly banging on EU and the fact that you're out of it now. And
we're not.
Well, do you know,
it's a better place to be than it was, if it's fair to say, yeah.
Okay. Well, you were justifying it there a while back when the whole thing came up about the medicines and the fact that you were doing fantastic over there and you weren't doing so well. They're not doing great at all. And this is not a great idea for leaving Brexit. It's like as if you're trying to justify the downside of Brexit with saying trying to pick out the good points. Oh, that's it. But that's done. The thing is, what I was really ringing up about was you're going on about Ursula von der Leyen apologising for the cost in relation to the medicines. When have we heard Boris apologising for the 100,000 for the third highest rate of deaths in the UK?
That day,
in the world.
The day that hit that grim figure, which is still a world, I say world leader, it should really be a world disgrace. But the day the number said that he was in charge and he was deeply sorry for all the lives that had been lost, he held the press conference.
Right, okay.
No, God, I think. Of course he didn't. And I'm not saying that makes him right. And time will. By the government he leads were wrong. I've said countless times they moved too slow. PPE was a disaster. Moving elderly folk into care homes was a fatal error. So I'm not defending any of that. But when it hit that. So.
Just two of the quick points. You went on about the Article 16 there, where they came in and they said they were going to, break Article 16, call it into play. Within hours, it never actually went in. They spoke about doing it, never actually went into play, and within hours it was cancelled. But when you look back when your man from the north, I can't think of his name, the minister for the north there, Northern Ireland, stood up in the Commons and said they were going to break international law. That went on for weeks and weeks and weeks before it was rescinded. So.
Right.
You're putting one set of rules for the EU where you keep knocking them, and then when it comes to...
Was that Brandon Lewis?
Okay.
Was it the Conservative Brandon Lewis you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So overall, what is your view, lastly, on this row, that Britain overdoes it?
Yeah, I think every time, you know what it is, Nick? I don't mean this in a bad way. But every time, if I was to list out, I could have a list of ends in my arms here now of Britain is the best at this. The smallest of things are the best at, the biggest of things are the best at. It's like there's no one else in the world.
Well, I'm sorry if we project that is nonsense, because clearly you can't have the level of deaths that Britain has endured, and the rate of deaths per capita that Britain has endured, and the continued number of infections, where I think the United Kingdom still stands the 5th highest in the world. So you're absolutely right, but allow us a little bit of a cheer. If you can, in that at least the vaccination is running at around 14%. I think I downplayed it. I said 12, it's 14%. Kieran, be well. Look after yourself, sir. Thank you. Same subject, Erica in Lambeth. You're on the radio. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm waiting for this vaccine, but I'm all right, my love. What about you, Erica? Do you think what do you make of Ursula von der Leyen's words?
I think it's quite rare to hear apologies from premiers, and I think the UK did a great job on the vaccine buy-in. But I also think what you said about the way you framed it and said, oh, it stopped other EU countries that are members of the EU getting their actual vaccines is untrue. It only stopped them buying into one particular type of vaccine. And as we know, in the UK, we had a whole raft of vaccines that we bought into. I think there are maybe even 7 or 8. So it didn't actually prevent them.
Well, you remember Germany and the Netherlands tried to buy their own, and they were told they'd be sued by the European Union if they continued.
Yes, but only if they were buying into the same vaccine rollout. And unfortunately, the EU, that it kind of fell foul of vaccine production problems. And that could happen to anyone. We were just lucky. But
then the EU did all it could to rubbish the AstraZeneca jab. They still say well, the German research says that it didn't work. They still won't give it to their over 65s in the European Union, except the World Health Organization, of which I'm not a fan, has endorsed the vaccine. So something that the World Health Organization says works.
But it's been the same here. We've changed our mind on many, many things, on U-turns on many things. Yes, but there are other vaccines that there have been doubts about, and we've heard about them in various newspapers. That this is going. I mean, it's really kind of very tit for tat. The same things are going on here.
Well, I again, as I've said many times, until the vaccines came along, I would think the government was scoring a C-. And it's worth saying it's the scientists who invented the vaccine, and in many instances it's the army that's got the vaccine out there, and it's the health service that's administering it. But it will ultimately, of course, come back to the government, because everything else does, and I do think on that one we should at least give them an A, if not an A+. All right, Erica, thank you for your views. Should we turn to other matters? We always champion the underdog here, the David the Goliath. What about this story? A man who painted a zebra crossing on a busy road so his disabled wife could cross safely has been fined £130 by police. Laurie Phillips, from whom you'll hear in a moment, was investigated by officers. Oh, what country are we living in? Issued with a community resolution order. Oh, my heart sinks. After his repeated requests to the local authority went unanswered. He's been his wife's primary carer for 20 years. She has a number of disabilities. The couple convinced the council to install drop curbs back in 2016 for her buggy to be able to cross the road, but have had no luck with the zebra crossing. Mr. Phillips, who is a retired psychotherapist, rose at 5 o'clock in the morning, spent several hours painting blocks to form a zebra crossing, which stayed there for 4 days. I'll give you the council reaction in a moment, but it's my privilege to welcome to the show Laurie Phillips, the man who took the law into his own hands. Good to have you on, sir. I'm looking at it. It is a first-class job. How long did it take you?
It took about just over 2 hours. There was 2 other people involved, but I didn't do it entirely on my own. But it took about two or 3 hours to do.
It's a fantastic job. I'm looking at a photograph you did in the Daily Telegraph. How long was it in position until the local authority or the old bill came a-calling, Mr. Phillips?
4 days.
And then what happened?
Well, suddenly a large lorry appeared and started to wash it off. And, I mean, it was only marker paint. It wasn't proper road paint, and so it took very little to remove it. And it took them about an hour to take it away. And that was the end of that. But in the 4 days, we had it as a kind of proper crossing, if you like. It had worked. The cars approached it much more slowly. They stopped for people who wanted to cross the road. And it made a big difference. And we still haven't got a proper crossing. And we have a reluctant council who keep saying that safety is their highest concern, but they don't actually act to demonstrate And I'm afraid actions speak louder than words.
Why is it necessary? Obviously your wife uses a wheelchair. Is it a very busy road you live on, Phillips?
I don't, it's not, it's round the corner from the road I live on, but effectively it's the main route to Muddyford Quay, which is a hugely popular location for people to come to, both locally and from out of the area. And it has a very high volume of traffic, certainly in the summer, and when it's busy, it's very difficult to cross the road, and more to the point, where the drop curbs have been placed, it's actually a blind corner. You can't see cars coming, and it is hazardous.
Yes.
And it's not just for, disabled people, it's